Good morning. Today's Sunday. We're usually out on Saturdays, but yesterday we had a cold snap and it was like in the negatives most of the day, and we're not doing that. So we're out here today. That being said, we are out here today following up on the infrasound project. I did say I was going to make the final day last week, but I've decided to extend it for a week or two just because I didn't really have any other plan today. So that's our plan. We're going to head out, see if we can do that, do some passive infrasound recording, and see what we pick up or not. It's kind of windy today, so we'll get background noise if nothing else. That's expected between usually 3 and 9 hertz, maybe a little bit more. But if we have, I want to get that pulsing sound again, if I can. If not, then we'll see. But let's hit the trail and see what we find for today. Come on along. Okay, we're back. We don't have a pulsing sound today, but we do have what would you call that? Okay, maybe it is. Hold on. So I am doing some passive infrasonic recording right now with 2 different apps. One records, the other, if you get enough of it, you can turn it into a wave file that you normally can't hear because it's low frequency sound, but I keep hearing the sound while I'm out here. It's not necessarily the same pulse, it's like more of a low rumble, which again is odd by itself. So we're going to monitor that passively as I kind of go through here again. The goose that keeps giving up the golden egg, sort of, if you think about it that way. So in the meantime, while we're doing that, gossip-wise, the thing I kind of have a little peeve going on, and it is basically not so much the woo side of things, because there's a lot of, I know people on the woo side, and we have gotten to a point with these guys, they'll spew out their theories, and I kind of, every now and then they'll come up with an interesting one, but for the most part they know that we're just agreeing to disagree on the nature of what this is. And that's okay. That's okay. That's what mature adults do. I'm just listening to that for that rumble again. And the thing about the rumble is, if you have a big enough tree and you got like a wood popping dynamic going on, like a tree like this right over here, this thing is easily 3 feet around. If it came down right now, I would be absolutely so dead. But it's likely a naturally occurring sound, but it's still interesting to figure out what it is. And it plays into my get to know the land philosophy. If you know it's there, you can rule out the actual weirdness from what you know is there. Like I said, I'm already getting intermittent infrasound from the wind, and it is from the wind, between like 3 and 9 hertz level. I keep hearing this thing though, that's like kind of, it's not exactly the pulse, but it ain't far off either. It's coming from that way. We're gonna head over that way. So some, not as brazenly weird as the pulsation sound was, but odd enough to warrant some obligatory curiosity. So again, my peeve. Apparently it's a peeve of some, and here's the thing. People in the community pretending to be something they're not. Oh God, Freaking stick frozen to the ground. That's. See if we got a wood knock with this later, just for giggles. I'm not talking about the woo folks though. They tend to. You have the categories there. I did a rant like this the other day. You got the guys that are open to the mind speak and portals and this stuff. And if that's what you want to believe, you have a right to your opinion. And I'm not going to mock you, because if you're sincere in this, my response, like I said in the rant, is fantastic claims require fantastic evidence. And I actually got a response from a guy who said he had pictures of portals, but he lost them, which is convenient. But I didn't laugh at him. I didn't mock him. My response was, okay, let's see them. You know, by all means. If you actually have a compelling portal picture, show me. Because my attitude towards things like that is I am a very Missouri kind of person when it comes to that. Show me. If it's compelling, okay. The guy I was out with last week is a little bit more wooish than I am, and he was talking about orbs and things, and I've told him straight out. I've been doing this since 2004. I have never seen what I would take to be an orb, nighttime or daytime. If I see one, I will make a judgment at that time as to what I might think it might be or might not be. But right now, I can't claim that I've seen one. I'm not going to make something up to takes away from my credibility. The people I'm talking about, and this is more subtle. I'm not going to use the word sinister. I don't think that's really the right word, but Michael Merchant put out a video the other week touching on this. Mike is, again, a little bit more wooish than I am. And to each their own. But he also, I respect him from the standpoint that he is, and I've actually seen this in the field with him and Lady K, he is a honest-to-goodness naturalist who, in the warmer weather, could like look around here and pretty much name any kind of a, apparently the stick is my pointer, any kind of an edible plant or something. I mean, the guy knows on a similar level to a former Nezra member who is an accomplished birder. By the sound a bird makes, could read off or rattle off the scientific Greek name of the thing. This guy knows stuff on that level. So on that level, I respect him and his opinions on things. What he was talking about are the phony skeptics. And on a certain level, he's right, because if you go out and you go looking for the elements of critical thinking, there are a specific number of critical thinking elements. And then you have groups, I'm not going to give them advertising, they don't deserve it, but there are certain coalitions that name themselves after this concept. And that is not what they do. And all you have to do is read through maybe 10, 12 threads on their group. And I'm sick of carrying you now, but see, you got some action on the thing too. Anyway, you read through like 10, 12 threads in their group and apply what actual critical thinking is. That's not what they do. And Mr. Merchant is not wrong when he points this out. And we're going to cover some things from what I read from both sides of this. Now, Mike makes the point, you know, they debunk. They They see something, they mock it, they say it isn't so, and that's it. A skeptic considers all the possibilities and then goes where the evidence takes them. If there is no evidence, okay, that's one example. But when it comes to Bigfoot, there's a whole... If you look at the collective amount of information out there, good, bad, or indifferent, it's not like there's a vacuum of it. There is actually a fair amount of it. And that is where you go through the process of sifting through it, applying that filter, following evidence, following the lack of evidence, and that's where you start making your decisions on some things. Now, I'm not going to deride other people. I can only speak to my own experience. When I first got into this, I was compelled, or found compelling, the Patterson-Gimlin film, which to this day is one of the better pieces of video evidence. We'll call it a film, because back then they didn't have video, they had film. But I was. And since I've been doing this for the period of time I have, I've kind of followed that age-old debate. And despite claims to the contrary, neither side, in my opinion, has the winning argument in that. No one has categorically said it's a real creature. And no one has categorically said that it isn't. You get into all these side stories like Bob Hieronymus was in the suit, blah, blah, blah. That has not been proven. You're basically taking a hoaxer at his word. And when somebody asks me, and I have been asked, what's your thought on this? My thought is, unfortunately, it's doomed to remain inconclusive, because I don't think either side has compellingly made their case to a point where you can't argue it. And unfortunately, and this is something that may offend some people, it is not intended to do so, it is just grim reality. The people who are actually there, the surviving members who are still among us, are not getting any younger, and therefore their memories are not getting any more accurate. So direct reference from these people is probably not a perfect science, and there are going to be those out there that are going to get offended on the basis of hero worship and things like this. And this is another factor in the community that can frankly kiss my ass, because if you're going through this by the facts or the lack of facts, hero worship, like profit motive and a bunch of other things, give you a bit of inherent confirmation bias, because that's your hero. He wouldn't lie to you. There's a lot of people out there that apply this status to Dr. Meldrum. And I respect the fact he's a primatologist. I respect his credentials, and I don't have anything personal against the guy, but he also is one of a great many of us who has yet to produce the body that would solve this thing. And if you hold things to an absolute on that level, I don't have evidence, he doesn't have evidence, Lauren Coleman does not have evidence, some guy who's going to take an interest in this next week is not going to have evidence. It could be some little old lady walking her dog along the fucking railroad tracks, pardon my French, that finds a body and looks at it and doesn't care, thinks it's a dead hobo and keeps walking. Any of these things are possible. Right there is an example of what could be taken as a wood knock, but it literally happened right here, and there's obviously nothing here. It's a wind effect. Anyway, getting back to these, they don't like, the thing I find humor in is they took offense when Michael called them serial debunkers. The old term used to be scoffdick. Either applies. They don't apply critical thinking because they don't consider all the alternatives. They go right to this is bullshit. And they declare it bullshit, and then they stroke their egos. And a lot of their group is nothing more than a freaking mutual admiration society. Again, don't take my word for it. Go there because it is a public group and read through these threads yourself. You'll see the trend. Some people in there not so bad, but the person leading one of them is also a person who falls under some darker psychology and psychological attributes. And you get into a whole narcissist enabler dynamic. Whether they like to hear this or not, that is what it is. How do I know? I used to be an admin there. I have interacted with these individuals, and I saw the dynamic myself. It's a lot of why I left. It's not a healthy dynamic to surround yourself with. And that only furthers the confirmation bias that you have a narcissistic personality saying that I've said this is right, how dare you question me? Yeah, well, fuck your ego. Your ego is not the final say on this. Did you apply critical thinking methods to this? Did you consider all the alternatives? No. You said it's bullshit, you declared it good, and you walked away from it, stroking your little ego and having your enablers doing the same. That is debunking. That is not critical thinking. And that does as much harm in terms of polluting the white noise as the jackasses in their pareidolia photos and the people that are selling a narrative like the Paulides books, some of which are not bad. I actually read the Skookum Project, and it was interesting. I don't know how much of it I buy now knowing his agenda, but it was an interesting read nonetheless. One of my favorite books, despite the fact I don't believe in a lot of the premises it makes, was The Locals. Again, interesting read. You can find something interesting without buying into its message, per se. And that's the other thing with these people of this mindset that I can't, it's not just that they don't consider all the possibilities. They quite literally lack imagination. They declare it BS and they move on and they mock. That's the major thing that people get put off by, is the mockery. And there are things in the community that are open to mocking. Anyone in this day and age that considers Todd Standing to be anything legitimate needs a slap upside the head. At least Rick Dyer came out and said, yeah, I'm a hoaxer. And didn't try to sugarcoat it. He said, yes, I'm a hoaxer. Standing to this day, I mean, I don't always like the stuff on the tall ones, but every now and then the guy makes a good point. He pointed out correctly the other week. Here's Todd Standing. He's got 4 big feet on the hill, and he's running low on his batteries. And he's running around. Yet he manages to have 2 fucking cameras on him from 2 different angles, getting all this in. And he doesn't stop to think for a second, or he's just such an arrogant piece of shit that he doesn't freaking stop to think somebody might deduce this. I don't always agree with Brent Dill, but I give him kudos for pointing that out. It's a lovely piece of cinema, but it's bullshit. It's complete BS. His batteries are dying. He's trying to get the shot, yet he's got 2 other cameras on him the whole time. You're not an action hero, Todd. You're a bonehead. And that's nice wording. And then again, at least like Rick Dyer comes right out and says, if you believe the stuff I say about Bigfoot, you're stupid. I don't know that I would like him as a person if I met him in person, but he does come right out and admit, I'm a hoaxer. He doesn't sugarcoat it. So, I mean, who do you respect more? Him, Biscardi, or Standing? Biscardi and Standing are arrogant shitheads that prey on the ignorance and think they just have this carnival. Biscardi in particular has a freaking carnival barker car salesman mentality. Dyer literally was a used car salesman. And it's his mindset. You can tell if you watch him on video, you can tell that's his mindset. So look down here at some Yodi tracks. Yeah, those are pads, so it's not a deer, or he's tracking a deer. What's this one? Yeah, because this one is a deer. Okay, fair enough. Little hunting drama going on amongst us. But the Scoffdicks, and I mean, we're not going to call them. It's just funny because when you corner the narcissistic one about this, Well, when there's so much bunk, you have to debunk. No, yeah, but you're calling yourself a critical thinker. That's not the same thing. You're a debunker. And you do more harm than good. I could go into a whole slew of other stuff that I could get into on the psychological level, but for you to sit here and say that you're a debunker, or not a debunker, in the past, this person has called himself an agnostic on the subject. That is also BS. And here's the thing. When you're making these claims, you're making them out of ego, and you're not being honest. You're being deceitful. You're being deceptive. So, given that, what makes your word any better than that of Todd Standing? What makes your word any better? Honestly, right now, I think Rick Dyer is more honest than you are, because he comes right out with a used carsman's honesty and said, yeah, I'll fuck you if I can. May not be a positive message, but he's not freaking sugarcoating it, and he doesn't lie about it. You try to present yourself as an agnostic on the Bigfoot subject. You try to present yourself as an agnostic or a freaking somebody who honestly doesn't, because what is an agnostic? An agnostic is a person who does not know. They freely admit they don't know. When you mock anyone making a claim, when you do things like that, you are not an agnostic. You're a liar. You are a liar and you are a debunker. And people have called these people trolls. They are. They apparently get very, very testy when you point out certain things. Notably the narcissism. They don't like being called debunkers. They want to be seen as skeptics, but they're not honest skeptics. Like I said, critical thinking has key elements. If you go and do a Google on this, a Google search, you will see there's a method to critical thinking. There's also a method to serial debunking, and narcissism is a critical part of it. You have one arrogant... I'm ragging on this one person, but he's not the only one. You again, if you go to the International Skeptics Forum, formerly the James Randi Foundation something, the JREF, you have a couple in there. And again, I'm not going to give them publicity because they don't deserve it. I'm not going to bring names into this, but they take that same approach. And they're narcissistic, and they have their little gang of enablers who basically come in, well, he said so it must be like, no. Just because Joe Blow said so doesn't make it so. You have to apply, and they get very pissy and very dismissive when you apply the same negating tactics towards their alleged critical thinking in a matter of critical thinking that they would do to somebody who's on the woo side of the fence. But I think anyone who's looking at this with a sense of fairness would agree that fair is fair. If you are somebody who is looking at this with a genuinely honest set of eyes, then you apply the same standards to both sides of the extreme. Why do the skeptics get a pass? Because they're skeptics? That's the problem. They're not. They are serial debunkers. And when it comes to Bigfoot and other similar phenomenon, some of their blanket explanations for disproving something are as wacky and as unlikely as those on the woo side. And they get pissy when you point this out to them. Why? Because they want to be seen as skeptics, but they're not. And because they present themselves as that, and they're not being honest, they're being deceitful. And what is messing up the community? Deceit. Takes multiple forms. In the new year, expect me to call it out more. You have those who have confirmation bias through hero worship. And that could be any one of a number of people. You have the people that worship Matt Moneymaker. Matt Moneymaker has made a lot of bullshit claims. And he's been doing this for 25 years. He's more than happy to tell you that. Where's the body, Matt? He doesn't have one. If he tells you he's a lawyer, he lied because he never passed the bar. Known fucking fact. Pardon my French. Then you have, like I said, then you have the jackanapes like freaking Biscardi and Todd Standing. Todd Standing takes this to a level that's almost freaking comical. Again, kudos to Brent Dill Brent Dill for pointing out this thing with Todd Standing. It's like, how arrogant or stupid are you that you're running around claiming your batteries on your camera are about to die when you obviously have 2 other cameras on you the whole time, you friggin' moron. And the thing is, the sad reality is anytime anyone takes on a critical tone towards Todd Standing, there's always some asshole out there, probably Todd himself, who defends the guy, buying into his nonsense. And pissy or not, that's exactly what it is, nonsense. But you notice I'm not staying on the debunkers. I mean, they are part of the problem, but they're only a part of the problem. You have the serial hoaxers, the Todd Standings. And then I haven't hit upon him today, but then you have I'm just going to call him Dr. Zorth because the guy is not a doctor. I mean, he has all his videos and he starts off, I am Dr. So-and-so. No, you're not. You're a fucking kook. If you were to walk into a mental ward and you were to freaking say the shit you say on YouTube, they would detain you. And you would be on a cycle because you are that batshit. You are that fine a connoisseur of the guano. To use a euphemism for batshit, because you are batshit crazy. And whenever I talk about Matt Johnson, I don't call him Dr. Matthew Johnson, and anyone who wants to correct me can frankly go bleep themselves because he's not a doctor. He's a freaking goddamn lunatic who runs a destructive cult that takes advantage of people. And if you want to learn more about that kind of stuff, do some Googling on Scientology and their methods, and you'll see some similarities there. Congratulations, you're the David Miscavige of Bigfooting. And no, that's not a good thing. And to people that are watching right now that know anything about Scientology or are Scientologists, David Miscavige is an angry little Oompa Loompa who can go fuck himself for all the human trafficking shit that he's done. And if you want to fair game me, you're going to find me willing to shoot you if you do. You heard me say that. I'll probably edit that part out, but you heard me say that. Fair game has 2 edges to a sword, and you'll be on the receiving end of your own if you try. I don't cower in fear of your little private investigators and things. Like they do that kind of thing. I don't know. I doubt that Dr. Zorth does that, but he does have his defenders online. Let's not derail this too much, though. My peeve right now is the serial debunkers because they get too much of a pass. And recently, I want to give kudos also to Michael Merchant for calling them out, because the reaction you got from the guilty parties, shall we say, or to ask, well, why didn't you bring that debate here to their group? The reason why is, the only reason that the narcissist is asking this is because then you've brought it to a venue that is completely under his control, in his echo chamber, and if he doesn't like or can't freaking derail what you're trying to say, he'll ban you and then declare victory, and then everybody starts stroking his ego. I think you know what I mean by when I'm saying ego. I'm kind of pointing at another thing, but you get the gist. Anyway, I am going to take a segment break because I've covered this long enough, and I'm going to do some more listening. The wind is kicking up, and I'm not hearing that rumble. I'm going to work back over the other way and see if I can pick that up again. And I'm going to check on the infrasound recordings. I'm going to actually do some real field work instead of ranting into the camera for a bit. So we're going to go on segment break, and okay, we're back. We're starting to make our way back. I'm not hearing that noise at this point. Although I am getting intermittent infrasonic background noise from the wind in the same hertz level that I was a couple of bursts up to, like maybe 15 hertz or so, but I've had some time to process my thoughts of my previous rant, and I am going to actually take it up a notch. The serial debunkers are a form of hoaxer. Again, because what they're doing is an act of deception. It's deceitful to call themselves critical thinkers when you can actually go and see if they're applying these concepts and these methods to their debunking. And you can tell very quickly that they're not. And then again, you're falling into this whole narcissist enabler ego stroking dynamic, which is not skepticism either. It's I call the Zorth thing kind of a cult. I'm not going to take the debunker thing that far, but within these coalition groups, there is a bit of that dynamic. Not quite to the same extreme as Club Zorth, but there are some dynamics there. You do have the unquestionability of the leader. Hey, look, stick structures, if you believe that kind of thing. I'm going to keep this one kind of short because I noticed the effect of the cold on my battery. It's not freezing cold like yesterday. It is in the low 30s though. But this time yesterday up here, it would have probably been it got up to like -8 with a wind chill in the negative 30s. No, thank you. But yeah, it's not full-on cult-like thing, because in the case of Club Zorth, what you see, and it's creepy as shit to me, is he has these little commune things in his backyard. I'm sure his neighbors love him. If he's in any kind of a suburban setup. He's in Oregon, so maybe he has a house out in the middle of nowhere, who knows. But he has these things, and then he makes these people do his little testimonials. It is the product of a diseased mind that you need constant validation. And I'm about to set off the narcissist because there is a similarity in the personality of these two people. There was a point in time when the narcissist was essentially stalking Dr. Zorth. Another creepy aspect to their little cult, but yeah, I guess you could apply a little bit of Scientology to them too. But and that is kind of the toxin of this group, is that you'll have people, so what's your opinion on this so-and-so, Mr. Narcissist? Why does it matter? He's not a critical thinker. He's a serial debunker and a hoaxer while he's there, because he tries to pass himself off as a hoaxer, as a critical thinker. That's his talking point. Funny thing is, just this morning, he didn't deny that he's a serial debunker. But he's like, it's okay, because I say so. No, it isn't. It's an act of deception. And that makes you a troll and a hoaxer, and really no better than a lot of the other people that are doing the same nonsense. What I haven't seen yet is the vindictive counter reaction to being called this, but it's coming. Because again, you want to delve into the mindset of some of these people, the more toxic ones. Go out on YouTube and do some searching on videos by psychologists about how to handle the narcissist in your life and all that. It will give you insights to the traits of a narcissist and all this. It's a well-studied thing at this point. And if you've lived around one, and unfortunately I have growing up, you can see these things for what they are. And a little life lesson, moving away from the entire Bigfoot spectrum for a minute. If you find yourself encountering one of these people and your gut reaction is to keep them at arm's length, do that. Do that, because it will save you the BS down the road. Because I have yet to see one of them not fall right into the same patterns. And once you see them for what they are, they become incredibly predictable. They do. So I guess we're beating a little bit into the psychological realm, but it does play into, ironically, the debunker thing, because there is, I mean, leaving the narcissist alone for a little bit, let's go to the other narcissists in the JREF, because James Randi, a known flim-flam artist, is kind of like their patron saint of he shall not be questioned, as opposed to he who shall not be named. Ironically, jumping to another group of people that actually are Bigfooters that are known in the community, although some of their claims have fallen under scrutiny, I guess is the right word. Interesting little... Yeah, you want to work with me here? Interesting little tree formation here. Yeah, the camera was kind of going into a... What's the right word? An epileptic seizure or something, but no mockery towards people that have that affliction. Just kind of lazily going off to the left. Needed to be woken up. Maybe it was daydreaming. So, they have that same thing with Randy. James Randi being like unassailable. And a few of them, and again, one of the more narcissistic ones, is there behind the scenes and he's stalking people on other forums and stuff. So it does seem to be a common footprint with these people. And that, the more I think about the concept, not the name, you can apply more names within the community to it. And there's a lot of people out there that are pretending to be something that they're not. And I'm not talking about the woo people. I'm talking about the skeptical side of things. There's one guy out there, suddenly he's a hoaxing debunker. He was involved in 2 massive hoaxes that went on for 5 years each. Without getting into his criminal history too, which he does have an extensive one. So, on the one hand, it is only freaking natural to enter this subject and approach it with a massive grain of salt, a salt boulder, if you will. But the debunkers don't get a pass, because they're hoaxers in their own way. And that probably is going to generate ill will, but, as the saying goes, sorry not sorry. I will openly call the Bigfoot community, for better or for worse, a popularity contest. It's exactly what it is. And it's funny, because when somebody falls out of favor, that same popularity contest will jump on that person and fair game his ass. Just like Scientology does. And normally I would say I don't want to offend somebody of such and such, but I'm sorry, Scientology is a bunch of made-up bullshit by a bad science fiction writer. And it's been taken over by a person who is currently dodging multiple attempts to serve him in lawsuits involving human trafficking. These are not nice people. This is not a nice belief system. It does some really fucked up things. It is a dangerous and destructive cult. So, sorry not sorry. You, I will not be nice to. And if you believe in that shit, I'm sorry, you're a fucking moron. Same thing with the Zorthites. I have given them a name. The Zorthites, if you believe in that nonsense, you probably went through a Todd Standing period. And basically, I'm going to be blunt. If you do a testimonial for Matt Johnson, I will not call him a doctor because he is not one. You've sold your soul, in a way. But if you are, stroking the ego of... I see a spider walking on the snow. If you're stroking the ego of the narcissist, it's not quite the same extreme, but it's not dissimilar. So at this point, I've ranted long enough. I don't know if you like these rants or not. There's not a lot going on out here today. There's a new evidence of wind damage over that tree. Wasn't broken last time I was here. That one has been raped by a woodpecker over time. But this is where we do the YouTuber thing on the way out. So like, subscribe, freeze. I heard that rumble again. Cancel the outro for a minute. I'm going to listen for a minute. Interestingly enough, it wasn't happening over there. It sounded like it was coming from over there, but it's definitely coming from in here, in the hill over there. But it's not the pulse. It's like a low rumble, which my gut feeling is telling me is an actual natural occurring sound. Just not sure what. All right, I'm going to do some field work on the way out. I'm going to let this go. So outro back on. Like, subscribe, leave comments based on what you like, what you don't like, what you'd like to see me do. And we'll get back to you. We'll see you next time, and thank you for listening. Bye.